Abbey and Christine, welcome to Tea Time.
Welcome.
Welcome. Abbey, tell us what you're doing. What is this?
I'm holding this little fidget slug.
He's so cute.
We all have fidgets.
We all have our fidgets today. Mom has her fidget.
So people might wonder what I have on my head right now.
Yes.
And I just want to show them that we got presents when Abbey walked into the room.
Abby, you're a knitter.
I knit. It all started off at my training school, Miller. I was in a class called Textiles.
Yeah.
And my teacher, Miss Carol, taught me how to do this.
Do you have a
So
particular
beautiful.
stitch that you like to do the best?
I like to knit thick and thin yarn.
Okay. We kind of want to talk a little bit about why we love you.
Oh.
Yes. Well, we love your show, Abby. Love on the Spectrum is so wonderful. And when Raven and I started watching it, we were just like, this girl is amazing. We were
Smart.
just taken with you. You were smart. You were funny. We loved you and your mom so much. We thought everything in your life just seemed exciting and entertaining and fun. And I just want to know, how was the show for you? Did you enjoy being on the show?
I did. The first day they came, I had to sit in my room, and it was very harder to focus when I'm sitting.
Yeah.
Because when I'm sitting still, my brain's not really doing what I'm telling it to do. Yeah. But the next day they came back, they let me move around, and I was more focused, and my brain did do what I told it to do.
Well,
That's
amazing.
good. I would also like to inform our listeners and watchers the type of autism that Abbey has, that we can fully understand everything. If that's okay, Christine.
The type of autism I have is where you have a hard time getting your words out. And so that's why I used to identify with Ariel and the Little Mermaid growing up. Because she couldn't get her words out like me.
That
I
makes
love that.
so
And
much
finally,
sense.
the real Ariel, Jodie Benson, reached out to me.
Did you meet her?
Yes.
What was that like for you?
It was amazing. I made her a white hat.
Ooh,
Why was
smart.
it white one?
Why did you choose white?
The
Because I
foam
thought she
of
would
the
like
ocean.
it.
The foam of the ocean.
Yeah, the foam of the ocean. There you go. That makes total sense.
Did she sing to you or did you sing to
We
her?
sang together, and it was amazing.
They did. They actually sang together. We met at the Grove. There was this meeting. Jodie could not be more beautiful on the inside and out.
Oh my God.
And I've been hearing Jodie's name my entire life since she was like 3. So there's certain people like you whose names just like revolved in your lives, and then
Yeah.
you meet them and you're like, this spiritual journey of this alternative path that I'm on, not what I thought I was going to be on. But Jodie particularly, because the mermaid and the not talking reference.
Yeah.
And so we're saying goodbye to Jodie. I really let them do their thing. We all sat around, and then she just said, you know, you're a great mom. And she hugged me, and I fell apart. So I'm bawling my eyes out, and Jodie is like cradling me. and I'm like, I can't even believe I'm having this moment with this woman who epitomized the core of how she is on earth. And it just was so many feelings, and I felt so grateful to be able to meet her.
What song did you both sing?
Part of your world.
Of course. Abby, can I sing with you?
What do you want to sing?
Part of your world.
to
What do you want to sing?
I wanted all of us to sing together.
What do you want to sing, Abby?
Abby can
Remember
pick.
the theme song of That's So Raven?
Obviously.
Oh my gosh.
How did it go?
If you can gaze into the future, you might think life would be a breeze. Life is seeing trouble from a distance.
Go.
Yeah.
Trouble for the
Distance, yeah. But it's not that easy.
not that easy.
Whoa, no. I try to save the situation, then I end up misbehaving.
Misbehaving.
Oh. Yes.
I've been a trained singer.
You have a beautiful
You're a
voice.
trained singer.
Because I
didn't
started
go to the
getting
theme
voice
song.
lessons
I mean,
about
the
a couple
hook.
years ago.
Really? What are you learning in music lessons?
There's this guy named Bob Garrett, and he knows everyone from America who's been on America's Got Talent.
Wow.
Oh, are you about to go on America's Got Talent, Abby?
I'm not sure. Maybe in like when I'm for my 30th birthday is when I want to be on it.
I think that's fair.
Oh,
Let's talk to somebody
that's
about
cool.
that.
I
Just
might
new
want to
to
sing
sight.
my song since you sang your theme song. I'm going to sing one of my songs.
If you could serenade us with one of your
I'm
songs.
going to sing categories.
Whatever you want.
Okay, it
it's your
goes
choice.
like this. Ever feel like your brain's just a messy desktop? Me too. Can't find my words. I know they're in there, but I'm not sure where. Ever feel stuck in the past, looking back at life like movie scenes? I do. Nobody else can see what's playing on the screen. It's just me. Imagine Ariel's eating chocolate bars. Ursula's got a chili pepper. I like to put different things together and understand the world much better. Well, I got tired of being left behind just because I've got a different mind. Gotta find a way to make them understand. So I made folders up inside my head, good with good and bad with bad. Thought maybe I could find my words like that. That's why I have these categories in my mind. Help me tell my stories and take my time to explain my feelings, my thoughts, my worries. Yes, my categories. That's what makes sense for me.
Oh,
That was my song.
that is, Abby, you have such a beautiful voice. Did you write
Can't even
that?
tell you
I
how
did
many.
write that, and I wrote it with my cousin Mary's college roommate.
Wow.
And she's here, and I wrote it with her college roommate, Casey Kelly.
Wow. It's really beautiful.
And music is interesting in Abby's life because she could sing before she could talk. I noticed that music, she could like sing a song beginning to end, like even Twinkle Twinkle Little Star as a little girl, but couldn't put meaningful words together. A lot of scripting, what we call echolalia, which is when you repeat things you hear, but it doesn't really have meaning.
Yep.
It was really confusing. There was things she'd say that I just didn't know what it meant. Didn't point for things that she wanted. Didn't respond to her name sometimes. She was diagnosed pretty young at two years,
How old?
2 years, 3 months. Luckily, I put her in preschool early, just because that's what the other parents were doing. Do you remember what you said? What does it feel like when you're singing?
My autism is not here, but when I'm talking, it is here.
And when you're singing,
You
it's
said, when
not.
I'm singing, she said this to me one day randomly. There have been these moments of trying to understand what it feels like, because I'm not in that space, but I've met a lot of people. But if you have a language problem, it's hard to describe. And she said, when I'm singing, it feels like my autism goes away. And then when I'm done singing, it comes back.
Okay, so what I find beautiful about that is that music is known to be universal. Music you can play underwater, dolphins will understand it. You can
But I won't sing out loud underwater. I'll sing in my head.
This is very
Right,
true.
right.
You can't sit, that's dangerous. But I'm saying, like, if you got a boom box or a speaker and you put it underneath the water, I think fish would understand the vibrations of music.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like to listen to the radio from different countries. Even though I don't know what they're saying,
Oh,
I still get the
wow.
feeling. And Abby, when you sang your song categories, I started to cry.
It made you feel emotional?
Yes,
Yes.
it made me feel very emotional because rarely do people that are not socially typical get a chance to express themselves and they don't have an outlet. And Abby, you found an outlet for yourself to explain to so many other people in this world how you think.
Abby, I have a question for you. Since going on the show, outside of finding David, your boyfriend, what has been the thing that's changed the most for you? Is it having people recognize you in public? Is it getting to meet some really cool people?
It's really nice to make me meet cool people.
Yeah.
At Disneyland, I ran into Kristen Bell, who voiced Anna in Frozen.
Oh, I love her. That's amazing.
And whose house did you go to
I went to
for a podcast? Who's?
Taylor Lautner's.
Oh my goodness.
Have you heard of The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl?
Yes.
I was at his podcast. Taylor Lautner. That's
Wow. So you've gotten a lot of cool opportunities.
Yeah.
And how are things with you and David?
Things are going pretty well, and we were singing in Africa during the sunset like Simba and Nala.
Relationship goals.
Abby, I have to tell you, that moment in the show, I watched and I looked at my wife, Raven, and I said,
I did not compare.
why can't you do things like that for me? And she said, baby steps. I just can't believe you had such a beautiful romantic moment. He's the best boyfriend ever, isn't he?
Yeah, because when I was too young to have a romance, I felt left out in the cold.
And how do you feel now?
Accepted. That's why I've always wanted to be an adult. And look at me now. As an adult woman, I feel like Cinderella at the ball.
I love that. That's amazing.
You know, it's crazy to think because here, from my perspective, was someone that couldn't converse. So we have people that have neurological differences in social skills or maybe planning or self-confidence. But then you have people that like can't communicate or talk in sentences, which is where we were. So I like to share that so people that are struggling right now with 3, 4, 5-year-olds going, what's going to happen? Because I was that person. I would cry myself to sleep. I would not know. I was by myself. She has a brother too, and I was trying to work. And it was so overwhelming at times, but said a lot of prayers and then got off my butt and just said, okay, we're going to figure out what you need, get that brain to work. So we started in that place, like language, fought the school district, did all those things. How many years of therapy, of speech therapy, Abs?
22 years of speech therapy.
22 years.
What was the mark where you're like, oh, this is working?
It's funny you say that because like being here, you're like, I guess it's working. It's been such an ongoing, long process. There is no graduation from this. It is a lifelong journey in understanding how your brain works.
So, Abby, on Tea Time, we ask every one of our guests to put their hand in this teapot and pull out a topic. Are you willing to do that? Mm-hmm. All right. Tell us what's inside. Just pull one. Now tell us what's on that.
Travel!
Ooh, now we get to talk about travel for a little bit. Do you like to travel, Abby?
I do.
Tell us about travel. Where would you like to go? Where have you been?
I've been to Africa, and I look forward to going to Austria. Because you know why I want to go there? Because that's where the Sound of Music took place.
I've been there, Abby.
I want to go.
It's beautiful. You're going to love
Austria.
I want to go to Austria as well.
Did you visit places like where the Sound of Music, because I heard it wasn't shot there, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't actually shot there, but I did try to. It was a little bit farther than I could. I had a time constriction, but it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
You guys are going to have a great time.
Rolling hills.
And I do want to go to Italy. You need Italian food like spaghetti and meatballs, pizza, pasta.
Yummy.
In Italy.
Yes.
Did you just say yummy?
I did.
Oh, it's one of my favorite words.
Because it's a genius word, Abby. Yummy.
Because yummy is right. That would be.
Yummy in my tummy.
Abby, when it comes to sound and music, do you have trouble in loud spaces? Like could you go to a concert?
I've been to a concert before.
And is it okay for you?
She's
or do you
probably
have to wear
singing as loud as the
earplugs?
artist.
I saw Demi Lovato in concert in
Oh.
2014.
How did she do?
She was amazing. She even sang This Is Me from Camp Rock. Joe Jonas came on stage.
Oh,
You
out.
thrived, Abby.
Yeah.
You were thriving.
I was asking that question because sometimes for me, loud noise in general, it doesn't matter what octave it is, just loud sounds will make me get very uncomfortable. And I just can't tolerate that. So I was curious to know how it was for you.
It's changed with her over the years, though.
Really?
I think as she has learned to manage certain things, I'd say when she was younger, that might have been a trigger. And now it's very octave specific. One of the most unusual things from her childhood, remember they had this thing called Baby Shakespeare, and everybody put this video on Baby Shakespeare. So you're
Like
listening
William Shakespeare.
and Baby Einstein, right? And so
Yeah.
you're listening to that music because you're supposed to help with brain development. So I had it, she loved it, she watched it. And then one day I got Baby Bach, the newest one that came out. Now Bach is very orchestral, sort of a deeper thing. Put it on, and the second it went on, she started screaming. I mean screaming.
Tinny. It's tinny.
Yes,
Yeah.
something different.
And then
So
she had to call the pediatrician.
I did. I actually called the pediatrician and I said, what is going on? This is so strange. He just said it's not a big deal, that you just didn't like it.
Feldman?
So, yeah. So anyways, but
Not Feldman.
it was interesting because that was the beginning of sort of alternative looking at some of these inputs and stuff. So now I would say for her, it's definitely octave specific. Veggie Tales. Now, do you know that Veggie Tales?
Yes, I know Veggie
So
Tales.
that's a very high pitched, sort of squeaky intro. Can't tolerate
Can't
that.
tolerate. And also, you know what else scared me? There were these 2 bird pictures at the cabin in Lake Arrowhead, and they looked scary.
So that was a visual kind of
visual.
You know what they
frightful
look
thing.
like? The vultures on Splash Mountain.
Oh, yeah. Those
Oh.
are scary.
They look like mean birds.
Or the ones
birds
in
that
Africa.
could peck your eyes out.
Not fair, but I like that you went to Arrowhead. Okay, travel. Look at you bring it back around, Abby.
You're really a traveler, aren't you, Abby?
She is a traveler. I mean, where else did we go after Africa? Remember?
Paris.
We went to Paris.
Oh, did you see the Eiffel Tower?
Yes.
What was
Her
your
face.
goal? You had a goal to eat something in Paris. What was it?
Escargot.
No way.
Abby.
That guy?
Yes, and I wouldn't touch it.
Except that has a shell.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Slugs are similar to snails.
They
This
are.
is true.
Now, why do you like
Yeah.
escargot?
How adventurous.
The flavor? the chewiness?
It was slimy yet satisfying, like when Simba eats
I was
the
just
grub.
gonna say,
Slimy.
Like my favorite Disney movies are Lion King and Little Mermaid.
Because they're the best.
Finding Nemo.
Obviously, another great one. Do you
Love
like
it.
Wall-E?
Wall-E.
Oh, I loved Wall-E.
I love Wall-E.
Yeah.
Eva.
so you just think that
Wall-E.
escargot is delicious?
Yeah.
Wow. And you had it in Paris. How amazing.
It's kind of crazy for someone who also had texture and food issues,
Yeah.
big time. Like she had a lot of that, but I think the connection to Lion King made it.
Are you happy, Abby?
I am.
Good.
She's overcome so much, and I like to just point out how hard she has worked and never giving up. And one of her music videos, which was the first one we did, was called "The Girl Inside," because she used to go around saying, I didn't do it, the girl inside me did it. Like she would have this understanding that autism was like a person living inside of her that controlled her brain. So she had the desire to execute something, but her brain wouldn't do it, which gave me a lot of patience and understanding, and so that I didn't have expectations that were not appropriate for who she is. So there's that part of it. But she wrote the song, Girl Inside, which was the first one. And at the very beginning of that, when she was 12 years old, you were 12, right?
Something
Abby was
like that.
sitting in a room. I've always been a videotape person and picture taker. I had the first video camera in like 1980 something. Oh my gosh. Okay. It was about this big. And so I was always into that stuff. But she was 12 and she was sitting on her bed. She was super frustrated, having a hard time. And she just said, why isn't my brain doing what I'm telling it to do? It's the first time.
And I was like, stupid brain.
It was the first time she ever actually was able to articulate something like that. Because you got to remember, I was playing detective all the time. Yeah. I didn't know. She couldn't say. I'd have to deduce and try and figure out what something meant. And she said, my stupid brain isn't working. Why isn't it doing it? I want to take my brain out and I want to give it to somebody else. And I want to take a typical kid's brain and put it in my head. So I actually then grabbed my camera and said, can you say that again? Tell me, what are you feeling? Why are you so angry? She said the exact same thing again. And so it's at the beginning of that song. That's that footage of her at 12 feeling so frustrated and actually doing this, like with her head. And it just makes
like
you...
this.
Can you help me understand something from that, what you just told me? So you're saying that at that time, she was like, there's somebody else in my brain and I can't tell my brain what to do. But at that time, you knew you couldn't tell your brain what to do, but you still had the smarts to say
She
that.
had the awareness
She had
and
the
this
awareness.
ability
Awareness,
to
yeah.
I think that moment of awareness is so interesting when you realize you're not your autism. You're different than your autism, much like anyone else who has a difference isn't that thing, right? Your being is greater than that. So that's amazing that you were also, as her mother and her witness, able to see and capture that.
When that moment happened, she was 12. So it's the first time she was ever, and a lot of parents will ask me, when did she start talking? When were we in full sentences? Because they're working on language. That was the first time there was ever a specific, concrete description of what it must felt like to be in her head. So that's when I grabbed my camera, shot the thing, stumbled out of her room, watched it again, and said, that was like my universal God moment of the universe that came down and said, Christine, you're supposed to show people this because if a nonverbal, non-speaking person might feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
And that parent should know that so that you understand what might be going on inside and see the person, not the disability.
Yeah.
So I'm really learning a lot about that. There's so many levels of how this impacts. And I'll never forget the day. I'm like a to-do list person. I'm like, to-do list. And the day of the diagnosis I was like, well, what do I do now? And they were just like, well, you'll be doing a lot of therapies and a lot of interventions. And I didn't even know what that meant. And everything went in slow motion for me. Like I saw my life fading before my eyes that day. I just saw everything I'd ever hoped and dreamed for my own stuff I wanted to do in my life kind of like go away because
Missouri.
Yes, I can only imagine how that feels, having so many ideas and thoughts that we create when you create a life and you have these goals and dreams, and then it just took a left turn.
But it wasn't goals and dreams of any expectation I had.
Okay.
Like, I'm not like that. I waited to the last second to have kids. I was traveling Europe. I was doing a lot of fun stuff.
Okay.
And then it was more just, will she talk? Will she have friends? Will she be alone? We got kicked out of preschool. That's not a fun feeling when they call you up and say, your kid can't come here anymore. We can't guarantee your safety. I mean, that was actually the day I really knew that my life had changed forever. Everything about my experience being Abby's mom. My first child was not at all anything I was prepared for, knew about. It was all different. And so you kind of piece it together and you have to kind of figure out as you go and be a detective. And the one thing I would say to parents is, and caregivers is just, you can't wait for the system to come to you and say, do this and do this. And in other areas, you can. If you have other illnesses, the doctor will say, here's our course of treatment. If it's a mental illness thing and you need support, usually there's, we have this medication, we have this therapy
But they immediately go to medication. They're not actually giving you tools.
Right. So I'm a big tool believer. You know, I'm not against medication if it works for anyone because we know that the brain may have lower levels of dopamine. And if you do have brain chemistry that's not... You've got to be careful about it, but you cannot do one without the other. I'm a total cognitive behavior girl. Like, let's get into it. Let's rethink our thinking. My favorite line.
Yeah, I love that.
Let's rethink our thinking. And I do that all the time. I can look at something this way or I can look at it that way.
That's you got a superpower.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of do it that way. So I want to inspire people to sort of accept what is in your life. Do not compare and despair. And if you can do that, I had to have that moment where I just was in full acceptance of this because I was kicked and dragged into this. I want to make sure people know this. So like, it wasn't like I was like, oh, great. It was very hard for me to sort of change my perspective on everything and rethink it.
I can only imagine. Other than that?
I know a tiger with ADHD. Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. He has ADHD just like my brother.
That is 100% true. You want to cheers with us, Abby?
Yeah. Oh, you love cheers.
1, 2, 3, cheers. Abby, thank you so much for coming. Christine, thank you for coming. You guys are absolutely wonderful.
De nada. That's your welcome in Spanish.
It sure is. Gracias. This was great. Abby, thank you.
Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy your hats.
They're so beautiful. We're going to wear these all winter long.
Yes, we are.
They're so beautiful.
Those are yours. I made them. Thank you,